Imagine this. The CIA spends billions of dollars on a secret project so advanced, so ambitious, that even most people inside the agency have no idea it exists. A project meant to make America untouchable, to give the United States eyes that could see anywhere at any time, without risk and without trace. But instead, it became the most expensive failure in the CIA's history. A black budget disaster buried for decades. And when the truth finally surfaced, it revealed a story so strange, you'd think it came straight from a Cold War thriller. This is the story of Project Aquiline, the CIA's forgotten dream of building a nuclear-powered robotic bird that could spy on the Soviet Union. It was bold, brilliant, reckless, and doomed, and in the end, it changed the future of espionage forever. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll realize how one of America's biggest intelligence failures helped create the surveillance world we live in today. The year is 1960. The Cold War isn't just politics, it's paranoia turned into science. The United States and the Soviet Union are locked in a deadly race to control information. Every secret counts. Every piece of intelligence could mean the difference between peace and nuclear war. And then, disaster strikes. A U-2 spy plane, the pride of American reconnaissance, is shot down over Soviet airspace. Its pilot, Francis Gary Powers, survives and is captured alive. The world finds out. America is humiliated. Inside Langley, the CIA swears this will never happen again. No more pilots, no more human risk. They need a new kind of spy, one that can't be caught, one that technically doesn't exist. So they go to a small, secretive division of Lockheed Martin called Skunk Works. The same engineers who built the U-2 and later the SR-71 Blackbird, the fastest jet ever made. Their new mission: build something invisible, something revolutionary. The idea that comes next sounds insane, even for the Cold War. What if they built an aircraft that looked like a bird? A machine so small and quiet that it could glide undetected across Soviet skies. A mechanical eagle with hidden cameras in its eyes, radio antennas in its wings, and a transmitter in its tail. It would fly over missile bases, photograph targets, and blend perfectly into nature. That was Project Aquiline. A dream of mechanical life before the world even had drones. Lockheed engineers went to work. They built prototypes with fiberglass bodies, realistic feathers, and small jet engines. Each model could fly for hours, controlled by a pilot miles away through early computer guidance. For 1960s technology, it was light years ahead of its time. But there was a problem. The CIA didn't just want a bird. They wanted an all-seeing eye in the sky, one that could never land, never refuel, never fail. And that's where things started to fall apart. By 1968, the first test flights began. In the Nevada desert, engineers watched as the strange, bird-like machines took off for the first time. For a few seconds, everything seemed perfect. The dream was alive. Then it crashed. The signal had cut out mid-flight. The bird lost control and smashed into the ground. Millions of dollars evaporated in seconds. But the CIA wasn't ready to quit. They had invested too much, and more importantly, they were terrified of falling behind the Soviets. So they doubled the funding. They ordered more prototypes. Each one was supposedly smarter, tougher, and more realistic than the last. But every flight ended the same way, with failure. The radio control systems couldn't maintain stable connections beyond 30 miles. Wind currents threw the small aircraft off course. Some crashed into mountains. Some simply vanished. The engineers were frustrated. The CIA was furious. And yet, the money kept coming. You know that saying, if it doesn't work, throw more money at it. That's exactly what happened. By 1970, Project Aquiline had cost hundreds of millions of dollars, equivalent to several billion today. And it still couldn't do what it was designed for. That's when someone inside Langley proposed an idea that would push the limits of sanity. If fuel was the problem, why not use nuclear power? Yes, you heard that right. The CIA seriously considered building a nuclear-powered mechanical bird. It would have a miniature reactor that could keep it flying indefinitely. Unlimited flight time, unlimited spying. The problem? If it crashed, and let's face it, it always crashed, radioactive material could scatter over the desert, or worse, over enemy territory. Even the engineers warned it was basically a flying dirty bomb. Still, in the fever of Cold War competition, fear outweighed reason. And the CIA pushed forward anyway. They built new prototypes, this time experimenting with radioisotope fuel sources. And sure enough, the accidents continued. Some birds went missing, some burned mid-flight. One even disappeared entirely during testing, radioactive components and all. No one ever confirmed what happened to it. Some say it crashed in a restricted area. Others whisper that it's still buried somewhere in the Nevada desert. By 1972, the project had spiraled into chaos. Reports described the program as technological overreach. Engineers started quitting, and the CIA, realizing the nightmare it had created, decided to quietly shut it down. No announcement, no public record, just silence. Billions gone, no working drone, no results. But here's the thing about the CIA. They never really give up. They just renamed things. Project Aquiline didn't die. It evolved. The research, the data, the technology, all of it was quietly absorbed into new classified programs. And years later, those experiments gave birth to the modern drones we use today. Think about that. A top-secret Cold War failure in the 1970s eventually led to the Predator drone, the weapon that defined 21st century warfare. From a fiberglass bird to a satellite-guided hunter-killer. Every lesson learned from Aquiline's crashes, the sensors, control systems, flight dynamics, became the foundation for the drones that now dominate the skies. But Aquiline's legacy wasn't just technological, it was philosophical. It taught the CIA and the US government that information was the ultimate weapon. That surveillance wasn't just about security, it was about control. And that belief still drives intelligence agencies today. The dream of an all-seeing eye never died. It just changed shape. Today, we live in a world where drones watch battlefields, satellites monitor cities, and algorithms track your every move online. We traded spy birds for smartphones, and we didn't even notice. Scary thought, isn't it? The same obsession that led the CIA to build a nuclear-powered robot bird now powers the data systems that know where you live, what you buy, and what you believe. And here's where the story gets even stranger. Before Aquiline ended, some CIA researchers started testing biological mimicry, real animals implanted with sensors. They experimented with birds, fish, even insects. Tiny transmitters that could record sound or detect radiation. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, right? Well, decades later, DARPA, the Pentagon's research agency, launched a real program called Insect Allies. Its goal? To use living insects as biological surveillance tools. So no, it's not a theory anymore. It's science. Project Aquiline may have failed on paper, but its DNA is everywhere. In every drone strike, every satellite feed, every smart surveillance system watching us from the sky. It proved that no idea is ever too crazy for intelligence work, only too early. And that's the terrifying truth, because the most dangerous technologies are born not from success, but from failure. Project Aquiline was supposed to make America safer. Instead, it made the world more watched, more connected, and more exposed. It showed that the pursuit of total security always comes with a cost, sometimes in dollars, sometimes in ethics, and sometimes in humanity. In the end, the CIA's greatest failure wasn't that their mechanical bird crashed. It was that their dream of total surveillance survived. Because what began as a fiberglass bird now exists as something far more powerful, invisible networks of data, AI systems, and automated drones that see everything and forget nothing. And if the CIA could attempt a nuclear-powered bird half a century ago, what do you think they're building today? If there's one thing history teaches us, it's this. The future always begins in the shadows, and those shadows never really disappear. Project Aquiline may be gone, but its ghost still flies, in the buzzing of drones, in the hum of satellites, in the quiet recording of everything we do. Maybe that's the real lesson of the CIA's most expensive failure. That sometimes, failure isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a new kind of control. This was inside the CIA's most expensive failure, a Truvo original story. If you found this fascinating, make sure to subscribe to Truvo, because the next episode dives into another buried truth: how the NSA built the internet's backdoor. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious. And remember, the truth may be hidden, but it's never gone forever.